Okay, welcome to one of the first episodes of building a somewhat budget seat time car. Not necessarily a track car, but something to get comfortable with driving around, and also doing it as cheap as possible. So here I'll show you later, this is my technically $1,400 Miata. It's an NA, it's a 93, 1.6. And I already have some wheels and tires for it. I'll make a separate video on that, showing a super cheap wheel and tire setup we do for the track. And then I also got really cheap suspension, not necessarily track suspension like Super Miata, but it's, you know, it's better than stock. At least you would hope. We'll find out. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this car in the middle of the garage. So move out the RX-7, move this into the middle, and kind of get started on this video. So the Miata is a little bit in a predicament right now, and it has cylinder number 4 injector, I believe, to not be working. So it's a new Corolla GR right now, 3 cylinders. And I'm gonna make another video. I'm gonna try, I bought like a little injector cleaner, like a pulser. I'm gonna try and pull the injector out, mess with it, see if you can kind of try and like revive it, get it back, see if it's just stuck. If not, I'll just buy a used injector for cylinder 4 and get it back up and running. But right now it sounds like a Subaru, which is sad because if you look over into this part of my garage, that is a EJ25. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, get this moved around, get it in the middle, kind of get situated. Sounds like a Subaru. So when you open your box of coilovers, you'll have 2 things. This is just like an approval, like sign-off sheet. Doesn't matter. This is your installation guide. A lot of it is in German because this is KW's lower end line of coilovers, and they're made in Germany. So this goes over some basic stuff in here, how to set it up, and their recommended specifications on hub to top of fender. So, you know, look at this if you want to, or just do what most people do and throw it away. Here it's talking about putting the factory top hats on, and they're torqued to 18 foot-pounds on the top nut. So, important to remember that. You get a little sticker you can put on your toolbox or refrigerator, like everyone does. And then in here are your coilovers. They do look a little bit less travel, and this is a really huge bump stop, so we'll see how well the travel is. On these. But I don't know what's going on here at the spring rate, but I'll look more into that. Not bad. Like I said, they're basically lower end V1s, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know. Something like that. But I'm gonna get these all taken out, put them on the ground, and start getting the car up. Okay, I got the car in there. Harbor Freight jack stands. Make sure you really shake it to make sure it's not going anywhere. So, not going nowhere. So there's my junk stock suspension. This car had an interesting history. It was used on a farm as a farm car. So this thing has seen some shit. Okay, I wanted to show this. This is the top hat of the rear. I never taken off OEM springs that were so large when compared to like the car. So using the spring compressors, like, it was kind of a challenge, because for some reason Mazda thinks so this is like the giant spring that you need on those struts. Like, this thing's monstrous. Like, why? So like, I had the spring compressor, it was like here to here, and I would just keep walking it back and forth with my impact, because if I went too far, the part where you put the impact on would hit the spring, so you have to like 1, 2, 1, 2, and slowly. I would have just bought new top hats from like Raceland. Like, Raceland makes replica of these, like 4 of them for like $90 or something. $90 now to do this to 4 springs, like, yeah, I probably would have. But yeah, got it all done, taken apart. So I'm gonna go around and do the rest of these. Mine were like seized on, like, good. So good luck with yours. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up. But here you can see the ST coilover. And then luckily with these, you can just spin this all the way down. But yeah, not much shock travel on these. Very little. Huh, it's gonna be interesting. Okay, the second strut on the rear was actually pretty easy. So I want to see how bad these actually are. These look like original struts. So yeah, you might as well just be riding on, like, you know, solid like rebar. There's just no dampening to it. Here's some type of fluid in there. What's it doing? Absolutely nothing. Okay, top hat's on, torque down, put the lock washer from my old tops on here, and they have a nylock. I'm going to put this at the minimum recommended spec from ST, so from the top of this perch to this hole is 4.9 inches, so I'm going to adjust the collar there to 4.9 inches, and that's their minimum recommended spec. So try that out. So it's 4.9 inches from the center of this to there. It's also about 5 threads when you look at the badge here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 threads. Now, I've got the shock in there, but there's something pretty important that people need to know. If you still have rubber bushings in your suspension arms and you lower your car, you need to loosen all these joints that have rubber bushings, put a load as if the car was on the ground, and then retighten them, because a rubber bushing almost acts like suspension. When these arms clamp the rubber bushing, it pinches the rubber, and it, like, if you push it down, the arm wants to pop back up. If it pushes up, it wants to push the arm back down. So if you leave them where they're at now, they're thinking of where the old ride height is, and it's going to change the spring rate, technically, of the car. So when you get all these on here, just simulate a load, and then tighten all these down so it's somewhere in the middle of, like, where the rubber is, and it droops. And, you know, it's kind of hard to explain, but you want to have the rubber bushings set where they're zeroed out, not positive load or negative load on them from the arm. So when your suspension does move, it doesn't effectively change your spring rate. Now, if you have poly bushings, depending on which ones, those move a little bit more freely than rubber. They're still really stiff. And there's some from Sad Fab which are super loose, or even like the Super Miata ones, which you can't buy right now. They're out of stock, I think, forever. The Super Miata ones, they're loose, full range of motion. But with rubber bushings, they're basically suspension. So make sure you tighten them to the appropriate load of the car. And you can just put a jack underneath here and lift it up a little and then tighten them. Or if you have access to a lift where you can run the car up on, you could do that too. Okay, so I got all the rear done. So This is like 17 here, 17 here, 14, two 14s up top, 14 here, and those on the back arms there, those are 14 as well. So I got this 4.9 inches from the center to the top of this perch. We'll see how well that works. I jacked up the car too. Well, I put a jack underneath here, raised it from 14 inches from the center of the hub to here. 14 inches, get it roughly where I think it might need to be under load, give or take 2 inches. So there's that. Come around on the other side. And there's that there. So now I need to go ahead and work on the front. I feel like the front's going to be a little bit easier, but yeah, it's coming along pretty well. This bump stop and travel is interesting. Not much travel there. This is where something like the Super Miata coilovers come in, where they have incredible travel and everything else. But you know, if you want to get like Tecnas, decent setup of Tecnas, well, you're at like 1,500 for more aggressive Swift springs. Something else, I think it's like 14, 15. But these were $588, so we'll see how that does. Back there is the top hat, the other top hat. So now move on to the front. So okay, so I got the fronts out. It was actually pretty easy. You just remove the 14mm end link. There's this bolt here that runs through the arm. That's a 21mm, and you just use a breaker bar on this side and a ratchet and just break it loose. You have to undo the little 12mm end bar, sway bar bracket right here. You don't have to take it out all the way, just like turn it a couple times so the bolt can pass through, as you can see. And then this whole thing just drops down. You take out the 17mm bolt on the strut. Then you take out that 17mm right there. This all drops down and the strut pops out. I didn't use spring compressors. I just sent it and put the impact against a tire and shot off the springs. Here are the top hats. Gave them a coat of paint. They're drying. Here's the rear. I think I already showed you. Yeah. Here's the other side. So same thing. That giant upper inner A-arm bolt just goes straight forward. You unscrew the one bolt for the sway bar mount, and that's what you do. Okay, so the front end is done. I actually set the top of the perch to the middle of the mounting hole to 8.5 inches between. That is the minimum height for ST suspension recommends. We'll go from there, see what it does. I lifted it up to about here, a little bit negative, and then tightened all the bushings. So everything's all tight. This side's in here. Went together fairly easy. So I'll put the wheels on and drop it down, see what it looks like. Got all the wheels on. Time to lower it. We'll see how much it settles. I might bring it up like 1/2 inch, depending on how this settles.
but see there. There. A little bit of camber out in the rear. Need to go get an alignment. A little bit of toe out in the front too, I believe. Okay, new coilovers are on. Once it settles, I might bring it up like half an inch or so. And I do need to get an alignment. There's a little bit of camber in the rear, too much I believe, and there also looks like there's toe out in the front. But yeah, super happy with them. It's going to be way better than the struts that I had. Like the struts were just completely shot. You just push them in, they don't push back. The seals were gone. Everything was just old and original. But we'll see how well these STX coilovers do. They're not supposed to be track coilovers, but it's definitely better than what the car had. And I'm trying to keep it as cheap as possible, just to be a car that, you know, I can go out, or I can let a friend borrow this car and go out and have fun. Who knows, maybe in a year or so I sell them, and then I just get some like Technos from Super Miata and see how those do. It'll be really fun to compare like track times of just like super cheap $500 coilovers versus you know, some of the best coilovers for the Miata chassis. So yeah, I'll be sure to get some other pictures and video of it out of the garage, but that's it. So thank you for watching.